In 1619, the United States of America experienced a big change due to the start of slavery. But with this change came a severe consequence which African American blacks experienced. These changes include starvation and separation from families. But the most severe consequence of slavery that impacted African Americans today was forced illiteracy. Forced illiteracy was the worst effect because it left a huge educational gap today between blacks and whites. Another reason why forced illiteracy was the worst effect of slavery is because it forced blacks to stay as slaves. In other words, many slave masters tried their best to keep slaves away from learning to read or write, because they were afraid that slaves would escape slavery due to the knowledge they have gained. In result, they forced slaves to think that they were born to work for the rest of their life, which is called mental slavery. If slaves could not read or write, they were unable to contact other slaves on different plantations to stage revolts against the oppression from slave masters. But if a slave could read or write, they would have access to a large amount of slaves through the use of letters. In the world today, we see that the effects of slavery is forced upon African Americans as a whole. Statistics done by Lindsay Cook shows how blacks are left behind in the education race. Forced illiteracy contributes to households being illiterate. If the parents of a household cannot read or write, how are they able to teach their children basic skills like reading and counting? These statistics also show that blacks are behind in colleges and even elementary schools. In conclusion, forced illiteracy was the worst effect of slavery because it caused slaves to stay on plantations. If slaves could not reach out to others, then they would not be able to revolt. Forced illiteracy also left a huge educational gap today for African Americans. Here is a question for you, the viewer, to think of.